On a seemingly ordinary evening, the tranquil ambience of Ron's walk was shattered by a startling and frightening encounter. The 91-year-old veteran, who was savoring the serenity of the cool, crisp air as he meandered toward the diner, was abruptly jolted from his peaceful reverie. The once calm and soothing atmosphere was disrupted by the thunderous roar of motorcycle engines. In an instant, his stroll was interrupted by the alarming sight of 5 powerful motorcycles hurtling toward him at breakneck speed. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. The bikers, their engines growling menacingly, charged past him with such force that Ron could feel the turbulent wind generated by their reckless speed. The intensity of the moment left him paralyzed with fear, standing there speechless and stunned. The suddenness of their approach and the ferocity with which they passed by him was so overwhelming that he stood frozen in place for a few disoriented seconds. To his dismay, the bikers did not simply continue their wild ride. Instead, they executed a swift and menacing maneuver, reversing their course with another thunderous roar. They returned, this time encircling the elderly man with a relentless display of aggression. The deafening cacophony of their engines filled the air, forcing Ron to shield his ears from the assault of sound. As they circled him menacingly, their taunts and jeers filled the night with a palpable sense of cruelty. Their laughter echoed through the air, mocking him with a vindictive glee. The bikers' taunts grew more derisive and their insults more cutting as they surrounded him. With a cold and calculating cruelty, they dismounted their bikes and converged on Ron, effectively trapping him. Any attempt Ron made to escape was thwarted by their aggressive posturing, their voices dripping with contempt as they dismissed his efforts as pitiful. 2 of the bikers, showing no regard for the elderly man's dignity, grabbed him roughly and held him in place. Meanwhile, one of the ringleaders, a man named Lonus, began rifling through Ron's pockets with an expression of growing irritation. With each pocket that Lonus searched, his frown deepened, his anger mounting as he discovered that Ron was carrying nothing of value: no wallet, no money. The sheer incredulity of encountering someone who walked around without even a single cent was beyond Lonus's comprehension. In his frustration, Lonus demanded to know Ron's destination. After a brief, hesitant pause, Ron admitted that he was headed to the diner. This revelation elicited derisive laughter from the bikers, who scornfully labeled him a beggar, convinced that his lack of funds meant he was merely seeking charity. Their mockery intensified as they insisted that Ron take them to the diner, demanding that he beg for them as well. They made it clear that their departure hinged on his compliance, otherwise he would be subjected to dire consequences. True to their word, the menacing group remained with Ron, ensuring that their oppressive presence shadowed him at the diner. The once peaceful evening had devolved into a harrowing ordeal, marking a night that Ron would not soon forget. As Ron ambled along the street, the 5 menacing bikers shadowed him closely, their engines roaring with an intimidating presence. They kept pace beside him as though they feared he might somehow elude them if they allowed any distance to form. The relentless hum of their motorcycles, like a persistent and ominous shadow, was a constant reminder of their dominance. Lonus, the leader of the gang, took every opportunity to deride Ron, persistently branding him a beggar. Each insult was a jagged knife, aimed to wound Ron's dignity. Eventually, Ron's patience wore thin under the barrage of mockery. He retorted vehemently, declaring that he was not a beggar. His purpose at the diner, he insisted, was simply to enjoy a meal, just like anyone else. The bikers' reaction was a cacophony of laughter, so raucous and unrestrained that it threatened to destabilize their bikes. Their amusement at his discomfort was palpable, a twisted source of pleasure for them. Unfazed by Ron's explanation, they cynically questioned how he intended to pay for his meal, given his apparent lack of funds. The jabs continued, as they disparaged him as a lonely, neglected old man destined to fade into obscurity, abandoned by his family. Their words, steeped in venom, were designed to provoke and unsettle him. Yet Ron, ever stoic, resolved not to give them the satisfaction of seeing him ruffled. His goal was to remain unmoved by their taunts and not let them see the impact they were having. When they finally arrived at the diner, the situation deteriorated further. The gang's disruptive presence was impossible to ignore. They hung on Ron's every word as he placed his order, their laughter and derision escalating with each passing moment. Their voices, loud and obnoxious, disturbed the other diners. Any complaints from fellow patrons were met with menacing threats from the bikers, who warned them to mind their own business if they wished to avoid similar treatment. Lonis and his gang were reveling in their disruptive antics, their behavior an unrelenting source of irritation for Ron. For the first time in his life, Ron found himself at the mercy of a group that seemed intent on pushing every button, extracting every ounce of his patience. Despite his privileged upbringing, which afforded him every luxury and comfort, he had always remained grounded and empathetic. Born to one of the wealthiest families in the community, Ron had never allowed his affluence to elevate him above his peers. His childhood was marked by generosity and humility. He was known for sharing his toys and lunch with others, demonstrating a selfless spirit even in his youth. His commitment to others continued into adulthood. After a decade of dedicated service in the army, where he witnessed the profound struggles of those less fortunate, Ron returned to his community and took over his father's business. Under his stewardship, the company flourished, reaching global heights. His personal life was equally fulfilling. He married, had children, and continued to embrace a life of privilege. Yet he never lost sight of his charitable inclinations. He funded scholarships for promising students and established a range of economic support systems, including interest-free loans for aspiring entrepreneurs. Through his philanthropy and business acumen, Ron played a pivotal role in uplifting his community. Many of those he helped were eager to share their gratitude and recount his positive impact. Ron's legacy was not only one of personal success, but of profound generosity and dedication to improving the lives of those around him. Though Ron would have preferred to grant the money as a gift, he recognized that requiring repayment was a crucial motivator for those seeking to better their lives through entrepreneurship. He understood that the obligation to repay the loan instilled a sense of responsibility, driving individuals to work diligently to ensure the success of their ventures. The extended deadlines were designed to alleviate undue stress, allowing borrowers to avoid hasty decisions that could jeopardize their businesses. Ron's generosity and dedication were deeply ingrained in the fabric of his community. By the time his children were ready to inherit the conglomerate, and he could look forward to a peaceful retirement, his influence had touched the lives of at least 2 out of every 5 people in the area. His unwavering support and kindness earned him universal admiration, and the community's affection for him was palpable. The hospital where Ron received his routine checkups provided their services pro bono, a testament to their respect for him. The diner, too, offered him complimentary meals, no matter how extravagant his orders or how frequent his visits. The community's deep love for Ron was starkly evident when he lost his beloved wife. The collective grief was so profound that many local businesses closed temporarily to mourn alongside him. In a moment of personal loss, he found solace in the warmth and support of those he had touched so profoundly. Ron had lived a life of ease and contentment, eagerly anticipating the day he could be reunited with his late wife. His ever-present smile and kind-hearted nature made him a beloved figure, and even the biker gangs on the outskirts, known for their reclusive behavior but generally benign actions, were a testament to his broad impact. So, it was with great astonishment that Ron and the other patrons of the diner witnessed an unprecedented act of hostility from 5 bikers associated with the very group that had otherwise remained neutral. The sight of these bikers, who typically kept to themselves and offered assistance to those in need, turning against the most cherished member of the community, was jarring and deeply troubling. As Ron's meal was finally served, Lonus, with a display of arrogance and disdain, snatched it from the waiter's hands. Holding the meal out of Ron's reach, he issued a demand. The only way Ron could reclaim his food was by ordering meals for himself and his gang as well. The waitress, desperate to rectify the situation, attempted to retrieve the meal, but Lonus repelled her with a shove, threatening her to stay out of their affairs. He ominously warned her that failure to comply would result in the diner being set ablaze, asserting that no one would dare intervene. At this moment, Ron reached the end of his patience. He resolved to put an end to the biker gang's intimidation. Calmly, he withdrew his phone and made a call. The bikers, misinterpreting his actions, jeered and mocked him, assuming he was contacting the police. They derided him, insisting that his efforts were in vain and boasting that their connections to law enforcement would ensure their swift release if arrested. Lonus even threatened that upon their release, they would return to exact harsh retribution on Ron. Undeterred by their threats and taunts, Ron proceeded with his call, speaking in hushed tones to keep the content of the conversation private. After concluding the call, he placed his phone back on the table. The sudden shift in Lonus's demeanor was noticeable. His previously smug expression faltered as the realization dawned on him. The gravity of Ron's response began to sink in, and for the first time, Lonus's bravado wavered. As Ron, a 91-year-old esteemed veteran, ambled down the street towards his favorite diner on that fateful evening, he was blissfully unaware of the impending drama that would soon engulf him. The evening air was crisp and refreshing, a gentle embrace of nature that he savored deeply with each breath. His tranquil walk, however, was abruptly shattered by the menacing roar of motorcycle engines. With a jarring disruption, 5 bikers came speeding towards him, their bikes cutting through the serenity like a thunderstorm in the calm sky. The noise was deafening, the sound of their engines reverberating like a relentless storm as they approached at breakneck speed. Ron, taken aback and frozen in his tracks, could only stand helplessly as the bikes hurtled past him, the gust of wind from their passage nearly knocking him off balance. The sheer force of their proximity left him momentarily paralyzed with fear, his mind racing yet unable to form words. Just as he began to hope that this terrifying encounter was over, his relief was short-lived. The bikers had not disappeared into the distance as he had hoped. Instead, they screeched to a halt a short distance away, their engines roaring once more as they executed a swift reversal. With an air of menace, they charged back towards Ron. This time they encircled him, their bikes creating a swirling vortex of noise and fury. The relentless cacophony of their engines forced Ron to cover his ears, but the roar was so overwhelming that it seemed to penetrate his very being. As the bikers finally ceased their menacing circles and dismounted from their roaring machines, the atmosphere grew even more tense. They surrounded Ron with a menacing intent, effectively boxing him in so he could not escape. Their imposing presence was a physical barrier, their collective stance an unspoken command that he was not to pass. Ron, trying to maintain his composure, made a futile attempt to push through their ranks, but their cold laughter met his efforts with scornful disdain. His attempts to break free were dismissed as laughable, and 2 of the burly bikers seized him, their grip unyielding and intimidating. While Ron was held firm, one of the bikers, Lonus, rifled through his pockets with a palpable sense of irritation. Each pocket he searched seemed to deepen Lonus's frown, his frustration mounting with every empty compartment he encountered. The anger in Lonus's eyes was unmistakable, his disbelief growing with each discovery of Ron's lack of cash or wallet. To Lonus, it was inconceivable that someone could wander about without a single cent to their name. Yet Ron had done exactly that, living comfortably and without financial concern. Lonus's impatience boiled over as he demanded to know Ron's destination. With a moment of hesitation, Ron chose honesty, revealing that he was simply on his way to the diner. The bikers erupted into a derisive laughter that echoed with scorn. They immediately labeled him a beggar, convinced that his lack of money meant he intended to solicit food at the diner. Their taunts were relentless, filled with cruel jabs and mockery. They insisted that he was merely going there to beg for scraps, not just for himself but also for them. They further threatened him, asserting that if he didn't comply with their demands, the repercussions would be severe. Their intimidation tactics were clear: if he did not lead them to the diner and allow them to benefit from his supposed begging, they would ensure that he would deeply regret it. Sticking to their word, they followed him every step of the way. As Ron continued his slow, determined walk, the bikers kept pace on their roaring bikes, their proximity a constant reminder of their power and control. Every few moments, Lonus's derisive remarks cut through the air, taunting Ron with the label of a beggar and further intensifying the already charged atmosphere. As the old man's patience wore thin under the relentless barrage of insults, he finally snapped back, his voice steady despite the tension. He declared firmly that he was not a beggar but simply on his way to the diner to enjoy a meal like any other customer. The bikers responded with uproarious laughter, their amusement so intense that it caused their bikes to waver dangerously beneath them. The spectacle of their laughter, loud and disruptive, was as disconcerting as it was infuriating. Their mockery continued, escalating as they questioned how Ron planned to pay for his meal, knowing well that he had no money on him. They taunted him further, labeling him a lonely old man, abandoned by his children, destined to rot away in obscurity with no one caring about his fate. Their cruel words were designed to provoke, hurt, and take pleasure in his discomfort. Ron, however, recognized their intent and refused to let their venom get the better of him. He remained resolute, not wanting to give them the satisfaction of knowing they had provoked him. When they finally reached the diner, the situation took a turn for the worse. The bikers' disruptive behavior persisted as they paid close attention to Ron's order, seizing every opportunity to mock him further. Their loud voices and jeers disturbed the other patrons, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere for everyone present. Anyone who dared to speak up or complain was met with threats, the bikers warning them to keep quiet or face the same harsh treatment they were inflicting on Ron. The scene unfolded as a grotesque display of harassment, with Lonus and his gang taking pleasure in their role as tormentors. Their actions were a stark contrast to the community's typical values, leaving Ron, for the first time since his army days, feeling truly and deeply agitated. The bikers' behavior was not only disruptive but also a direct challenge to the peace and respect Ron had come to expect from his surroundings. Ron's legacy in the community was a testament to his character and selflessness. Born into privilege, he never let his wealth define him or create a sense of superiority. His early years were marked by a genuine compassion and generosity that stood out even among the affluent. Sharing toys and treats with his peers, Ron demonstrated a rare humility and kindness that made him beloved by everyone who knew him. His decision to serve in the army was driven by a deep sense of duty and a desire to understand the world beyond his privileged upbringing. His decade of service broadened his perspective on human suffering and hardship, experiences that profoundly shaped his post-military life. After an injury forced him into early retirement, Ron returned to his community not only to take over his father's business, but to transform it into a global enterprise. Despite his success, Ron remained grounded. His commitment to charity was unwavering, and he used his wealth and influence to make a meaningful impact. By providing scholarships to bright students and setting up interest-free loans for aspiring entrepreneurs, Ron ensured that many could achieve their dreams. His approach to these loans, though requiring repayment, was designed to encourage responsibility while easing the pressure on borrowers. The community's response to Ron's generosity was overwhelming. His philanthropic efforts contributed significantly to the local economy and the personal success of countless individuals. The widespread affection and respect he garnered were a reflection of his dedication to the well-being of others, making his recent mistreatment by Lonus and his gang all the more shocking and painful. Ron's legacy of kindness and generosity was deeply woven into the fabric of his community. By the time his children were ready to take over the family conglomerate, Ron had touched the lives of nearly half the people in the community. His influence was such that the local hospital provided free care for him, and the diner offered complimentary meals, a testament to the widespread gratitude and respect he had earned. The impact of Ron's life was most evident when he faced personal loss. The entire community mourned with him when he lost his beloved wife, closing businesses and grieving alongside him. This collective outpouring of support reflected the profound love and respect the community held for him. Despite his deep connections and the high regard in which he was held, Ron's recent experience with the biker gang came as a stark and painful contrast. Known for their peaceful demeanor and occasional acts of kindness, the bikers had never caused trouble before. It was shocking and disheartening for Ron and the other diners when 5 members of this group began to harass and mock him. The community was deeply troubled by this rare and disturbing display of cruelty directed at one of its most cherished individuals. Lonis and his gang were stunned into silence as they realized who Ron had called. The sight of the mayor's name on the screen was a shocking revelation. The mayor was not only a figure of authority but also someone with substantial influence and resources. The bikers, accustomed to operating with impunity, suddenly felt vulnerable. The weight of the situation began to sink in. They had targeted Ron, a respected figure in the community, without realizing the extent of his connections and the respect he commanded. The realization that they had crossed a line with someone who could call on such powerful support made them nervous. Lonis's bravado faded as he comprehended the potential consequences of their actions. The gang's earlier confidence was replaced by a palpable fear. They knew that if the mayor became involved, their threats and intimidation tactics would be futile. They had underestimated Ron's network and the extent of his community ties. As the bikers exchanged worried glances, Ron remained calm and collected. He had made his point, and the shift in the bikers' demeanor was a clear indication of its effectiveness. With a resolute expression, Ron prepared to address the situation. He knew that confronting Lonis and his gang was necessary, but he was also aware of the importance of resolving the matter in a way that would restore peace and respect in the community. The once rowdy and disrespectful bikers were now subdued, and the diner, which had been tense and chaotic moments earlier, slowly began to return to its usual ambience. Ron's quiet strength and the gravity of his actions had turned the tide, demonstrating that true influence often lay in the connections and respect one commands, rather than in any display of wealth or power. The realization hit Lonis and his gang with a crushing force. The once cocky bikers who had believed themselves untouchable were now face to face with the consequences of their actions. The officers, despite being their friends, were acting under strict orders from the mayor, and the gravity of the situation became all too clear. As the officers methodically placed handcuffs on the bikers, the atmosphere in the diner shifted from tense to somber. The patrons, who had witnessed the harassment and the ensuing drama, watched with a mixture of relief and astonishment. Ron's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaotic scene unfolding around him, reinforcing the aura of quiet authority he exuded. Lonis, still in disbelief, tried to argue his case, but his protests fell on deaf ears. The officers had no room for negotiation, they were simply executing the mayor's orders. The bikers were led out of the diner, their earlier bravado completely deflated. As they were escorted to the police cars, they shot glances of anger and disbelief at Ron, who remained unfazed. Ron's actions not only restored peace but also underscored a profound lesson in respect and community ties. His influence, though understated, had made a powerful statement. The bikers had underestimated the depth of Ron's connections and the respect he commanded, and they paid the price for their misjudgment. As the police cars drove away with the bikers in custody, the diner patrons and staff, who had watched the ordeal, breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had witnessed a demonstration of how integrity, respect, and strong community bonds could prevail even in the face of intimidation. Ron's quiet strength and the surprising revelation of his connections to the mayor had turned the situation around, showing that true power often lies in the respect one earns and the genuine relationships one builds. The revelation hit Lonis and his gang like a tidal wave, leaving them stunned and remorseful. As the officers relayed the details of Ron's profound impact on key figures in the community, the bikers' initial shock turned into palpable fear. The officer's voice was steady as he explained, "Ron isn't just any old man. He's a cornerstone of this community. The mayor, the chief of police, and even your gang leader owe a significant part of their success to him. They respect and cherish him as family." Lonis's eyes widened as the truth sunk in. The mayor, who had once been a struggling student, owed his education and career to Ron's generosity. The chief of police, now in a position of authority, had been guided and supported by Ron throughout his academy years. The gang leader, who had founded the biker group, had initially received crucial help from Ron to start his mechanic workshop. As the mayor and the gang leader arrived in their convoys, their presence was a testament to the seriousness of the situation. The mayor's demeanor was calm but firm, while the gang leader's face was a mix of regret and unease. They had come to personally ensure that justice was served, and their involvement underscored the gravity of the bikers' actions. Lonis and his gang were now acutely aware of their dire predicament. They had not only disrespected a beloved figure but had also jeopardized their futures by crossing individuals who held significant influence and authority. The community's collective regard for Ron meant that any harm done to him was considered an affront to everyone, and the consequences would be severe. The mayor addressed the gathered crowd and the offenders. "Ron's contributions to this community have been immeasurable. His kindness has touched countless lives, including many of ours. We will not stand by and let anyone disrespect him or cause him harm. Justice will be served." As Lonis and his friends were escorted away, their earlier bravado had completely dissipated. They were left to grapple with the realization that their reckless behavior had not only earned them the ire of a formidable figure, but had also turned them into a cautionary tale about the power of community and respect. In the end, Ron's quiet strength and the profound connections he had nurtured over the years ensured that justice was not only served, but was also a testament to the deep respect and admiration he commanded in his community. The biker's ordeal was a stark reminder that true influence lies not in wealth or power, but in the genuine impact one has on the lives of others. As the police car doors closed behind Lonis and his gang, one of the officers looked at him and asked, "Why did you target Ron? What was the point of this cruelty?" Lonis, still in shock, could only mumble, "We had no idea Ron was that powerful. We're new to the gang, just looking to make a name for ourselves. We came from a neighboring community, eager to stir things up. The gang leader had warned us that this kind of behavior wasn't acceptable. But we didn't listen. We thought we could intimidate someone we thought was weak and get away with it." The officer nodded, understanding their misguided ambition, but also acknowledging their lack of awareness about the consequences of their actions. Back at the diner, the mayor and the gang leader approached Ron, their faces etched with regret. They offered sincere apologies for the incident, clearly shaken by the events that had unfolded. Ron, with his characteristic grace, reassured them, "You don't need to apologize. It wasn't your fault that Lonis and his friends acted so disgracefully. I'm just grateful you were able to intervene when you did." He paused, looking at both men with a warm, appreciative smile. "Thank you for coming to my rescue and ensuring that justice was served. Please make sure those rogue bikers face the fullest extent of the law. Such actions must be met with the appropriate consequences." The mayor and the gang leader both nodded in agreement, promising to follow through on Ron's request. They expressed their gratitude for Ron's understanding and his continued contributions to the community despite the recent ordeal. As they parted ways, Ron felt a deep sense of relief. The episode, while troubling, reaffirmed the strength and support of the community he had helped build. His calm demeanor and unwavering commitment to justice had once again proven that respect and kindness were the cornerstones of a harmonious society. The incident served as a powerful reminder of the profound impact one person's actions can have on an entire community and the lengths to which people will go to protect and honor those who have touched their lives. The resolution of the situation brought a sense of calm and closure to Ron and the community. The legal consequences for the rogue bikers were a testament to the seriousness with which the authorities and community regarded the safety and well-being of their members. The restrictions placed on the offenders, along with their permanent expulsion from the biker gang and community, ensured that they would not have the opportunity to cause trouble again. Ron's return to his evening strolls to the diner was a symbol of the restoration of normalcy and peace. The community's support and the swift action taken against the troublemakers reaffirmed the values of mutual respect and care that Ron had worked so hard to instill in the community. The incident, while unsettling, ultimately strengthened the bonds between Ron and those who valued his contributions. The peaceful atmosphere of the community was once again intact, and Ron, who had always been a source of goodwill and generosity, was able to enjoy his days with the tranquility he had long cherished. His kindness and influence not only brought about justice but also reinforced the importance of standing up for what is right and supporting those who have made positive impacts on others. As life returned to its harmonious state, Ron's contentment was a reflection of the deep appreciation and respect he had earned from everyone around him. The community's return to peace and the restoration of his peaceful routine were the ultimate rewards for his unwavering dedication to helping others and fostering a supportive environment. Wow, what an incredible story. We've seen how a single act of kindness and selflessness can ripple through a community and make a profound impact. From Ron's remarkable life and the respect he earned to the swift and surprising resolution of the biker incident, it's a powerful reminder of the difference one person can make. So, what have you learned from this story? How can Ron's values and the community's response inspire changes in your own life? We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one key takeaway that you plan to bring into your daily life. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more compelling stories and inspiring content. See you in the next video.